ignites that spark. There are ponderings like this one. Everything in our life happens as though we entered upon it with a load of obligations contracted in a previous existence. Obligations whose sanction is not of this present life, which seem to belong to a different world, founded on kindness, scruples, sacrifice, a world entirely different from this one, a world whence we emerge to be born on this earth before returning thither. And finally, there are these more familiar lines. Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. So far as we know, brothers and sisters, the restoration of this responsive doctrine began with the translation by Joseph Smith of a few verses in the Book of Alma, late 1829 or early 1830. By themselves, however, these verses would not have been adequate. Elder Orson Pratt said, "This same doctrine, premortal existence, is inculcated in some small degree in the Book of Mormon. However, I do not think that I should have ever discerned it in that book had it not been for the new translation of the Bible." In June of 1830, while rewording some of Genesis, the choice seer received revelation, now included in the Book of Moses. Of that special revelatory moment, Joseph wrote, "I will say that amid all the trials and tribulations we had to wade through, the Lord, who well knew our infantile and delicate situation, vouchsafed for us a supply of strength, and granted to us line upon line of knowledge, here a little and there a little, of which the following was a precious morsel." Included in that precious morsel were words of Moses, further enlarging Joseph's view about how God's work involves other planets, but only an account of this earth and the inhabitants thereof give I unto you. For behold, there are many worlds that have passed away by the word of my power. The plans and purposes of God were also made more plain. For behold, this is my work and my glory, to bring to pass the immortality and the eternal life of man. Thus, the vastness of space reflects the vastness of God's love for all of his children. Other expanding revelations soon followed. In May 1833, the stunning communication now known as Section 93 declared, "Man was also in the beginning with God. Intelligence or the light of truth was not created or made, neither indeed can be, for man is spirit, the elements are eternal, and spirit and element inseparably connected receive a fullness of joy." Several years passed, years of apparent ripening and readying, before the record indicates the prophet began to communicate this precious doctrine publicly. In the 1839 pondering and contemplating of Liberty Jail, Joseph, by epistle, urged church members to better behavior befitting church members who had been called from before the foundations of the world. Joseph also received revelation about what was ordained in the midst of the counsel of the eternal God before this world was. In prison, Joseph was reassuringly told his own days were known, and his years would not be numbered less. Joseph's first recorded public speech on this powerful doctrine occurred shortly after his release from soul-stretching bondage in Missouri. Other speeches followed, capped finally by the soaring sermon at King Follett's funeral in the spring of 1844. This declaration to Jeremiah, "Before I formed thee in the belly I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations," was paralleled in the 1842 book of Abraham. "Now the Lord had shown unto me, Abraham, the intelligences that were organized before the world was. And among all of these there were many of the noble and great ones. And God said, These I will make my rulers. And he said unto me, Abraham, thou art one of them. Thou wast chosen before thou wast born." The book of Abraham and corroborating section 93 use words whose full measure you and I have scarcely begun to take. If there be two spirits, notwithstanding one is more intelligent than the other, they have no beginning. They existed before, they shall have no end, for they are eternal. Conjoined with the truths of the resplendent restoration, biblical references to this precious doctrine took on enhanced meaning and gave increased illumination. Indeed, a very major stumbling block was thus removed by revelation. Just as prophesied, Jesus manifested himself in word in the latter days. In Moses' day, a generous God let his doctrine drop as the rain.